Hey guys, Scott here. Today I want to talk about a little experiment I did yesterday where I tried to disregard macro play and only focus on chasing people because this is how, in my opinion, from playing Survivor, how most killers play. I know a lot of us that watch, good content creators or those who have played a lot ourselves, you don't play like this and that's fine, but you got to realize the majority of the player base is not even watching our videos. They're not, they're not playing that much. They're just sort of casual players that might not really fully understand this stuff. So it may be obvious to you guys, but it actually is something that I think most killers struggle with, and it's their lack of macro gameplay is I guess the best way to describe it. So in this little experiment, I tried to commit to chases every single time. The only rule I had basically was I could not abandon a chase willingly to go try to control a section of the map or something like that to make a decision with that. That was basically the only rule. So if someone like tried to body block, I couldn't just, I wasn't, it's not like a tunneling experiment. I could hit the guy who was body blocking and chase them. I just couldn't willingly abandon a chase to go stop like a gen being worked on or go to a dead zone or just something like that. So that was the idea behind it. And like I said, after a couple hours, I started throwing out games because people were disconnecting like every game. So the data started to become meaningless. But from the games that I did play, yeah, obviously I did way, way worse than I want to say thought I would, but no. I feel like an experiment is the wrong term for this because an experiment in which you know the outcome for is not much of an experiment. Like obviously I was going to do worse playing like this, but I guess I wanted to have a very long example of when playing like this is a really, really bad idea. So as I was doing this during the entire VOD, which you can see on my Twitch, um, whenever I was like chasing somebody, if I ran by something I wanted to do something about, I would say, okay, normally here I would abandon this chase and go, down this guy. Or, oh, hey, this guy's getting to the main building of Dead Dog Saloon. I would abandon this chase right now and I'm going to go somewhere else. That's what I would do. And to try to like, show where a smart decision would result in a much better, result. I try to make it as educational as possible. And it sort of shifted from an experiment to like, I don't know, like a tutorial on when I'm doing the wrong thing and highlighting it. But the whole point of all this is the difference between micro, I guess, and macro gameplay. Macro gameplay is everything basically that involves you not chasing a survivor. It's how you can. It's very common to feel in this game that you are doing very well in the micro component. Like your chases are doing great. You're downing people within, 20, 30 seconds. Your chases are super fast. And it's a very weird feeling to be doing so well in that individual skill, department. And then at the same time, you still lose the game. And then for a lot of people, the only other explanation they could give is the game's busted. It's impossible to win. Now, obviously, there's some really bad killers and there are some really bad maps. I'm not pretending that's not the case because that is true. But I think a lot of the time for these people, it's because they don't have as strong of a macro gameplay. And I would argue that macro gameplay is by far stronger than individual killer skill. There's only a limit to what you can do with actual killer skill. And macro gameplay is so much harder to learn and to teach. And I think that is why a lot of killers don't actually have it. It is so much harder to learn because it's not just you look at like a blight guide or like a hillbilly guide. Like for hillbilly, you start curving at the shack here, and this is how you do it. It's the exact inputs every time to curve around shack. You do the exact same thing. But with macro gameplay, you don't really have like there's no guide to it. And we've talked about this on my stream a lot. There's not really a way to make a guide for it. It's just one of those things that you just sort of learn over time. It's just your overall experience in the game. And I think this is why a lot of people, because I struggle to understand it for a while, but it's why a lot of people can feel that they're doing good. And even when you watch their play, their chases are great, but they just don't have that macro gameplay element. And I'm trying to find a way to like teach people exactly what that is, but it's so hard because as someone in my chat put it, it's not really just like a guide on what to do. It's sort of like a hierarchy of what you should be doing at the time. Like, okay, should I be slugging here? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing this? If not, then do this. Basically like a program, a lot of if-then statements. And then at the end, if nothing else, then chase survivor. And that's the thing that's so hard to actually make a guide on. And I don't know if anyone's ever actually tried that because of how difficult it is. I would love to see someone with a big brain like tried to make a guide for this, but I feel like it's too nuanced and it's too involved to actually accurately depict all the situations in which like this hierarchy would become relevant. So if you guys have any ideas on how to make that into like a tangible guide, I would love to do that. But to me, it's way too circumstantial. Like the information that you get could not work on this map. It could not work with this perk that the survivor has. It could not work with this killer. It could not work with like there's like so many variables that go into it that it's so hard to account for all situations to make a blanket guide. The most I can do is explain while I'm playing. Okay, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm going here. This is why I'm not taking this chase. This is why I am taking this chase. This is why I'm slugging here. This is why I'm not hooking this guy here. This is what like there's so many things you can talk about, but I don't know how to put that into a guide. And I just wanted to go over that because I do think, and I think most good players would agree, that the macro gameplay of DBD is more important than your individual killer skill, and it's how you can feel that you are doing very well chase-wise and still be monstrously losing because you might not be doing as well at the macro gameplay. Now, some maps don't even let you do it. Like if you're on Red Forest or something, fuck your macro gameplay. The map's too big to even try that shit. But most maps you can do it, and it is by far the highest skill cap thing for killers. So it's kind of hard to really quantify how hard it is, but I always shit on this game for being incredibly simple, but that's like when you look at the powers and the killers, you know, what they do. Wraith, bing bong, he escape. That's basically all Wraith does. Billy chainsaw, but he's a little more complicated, but at the end of the day, you're still chainsaw, you go fast. You know, every killer just has a power, they do a thing with that, and you can give a guide on that. The fact that you can't give a guide on macro play is what makes it, I think, the most complicated part of the game, and it's what I think most players do struggle with. So if you guys can think of some miraculous way to talk like for me to talk about macro gameplay in a way that kind of applies to every game, let me know, because I have not thought of a way. I don't think I've seen any other content creator come up with a way to actually do this, because it just seems impossible to make that a blanket statement thing. But it is incredibly important. And the whole point of this experiment was to try to show how if you ignore that macro gameplay, you are going to lose a lot more than if not. Someone also suggested something funny, doing the opposite, doing only micro gameplay, or doing only macro gameplay, sorry, where you just ignore the survivors and you basically defend areas as much as possible. And it would probably be equally as ineffective, but I'm not doing that experiment because the games take 7 years, and that just seems incredibly boring. So you have to do both, and that is how you are a good killer in this game. But yeah, I'm struggling to figure out how to show that other than highlighting the individual scenarios each match when it happens. But that's it, guys. Let me know if you have any ideas for this, but thanks for watching. See ya.